Nancy Pelosi is now saying that they will deliver the articles of impeachment on Monday. Now, traditionally, under the rules, I think they're going to modify them. That would mean that the proceedings would start at 1 o'clock the next day. But they haven't even done briefs or responses yet.
We are not clear about whether or not the trial will start as it usually would the next day at 1 p.m. Eastern time, and then following that at noon each day, because there's a proposal out there by Mitch McConnell, which is getting some Democrat support, that this should be held over until February for early February for briefing, and then mid-February for a very short trial, 3 days.
I think both the Democrats and the Republicans, and quite frankly, President Trump's team as well, I think they're all pretty close on this, Jay. You definitely have to give the president time to prepare a defense. I actually think the Democrats in the Senate might want a couple of days to do a couple more nominations. So I think they will reach an agreement.
I think it's probable that it's going to be mid-February, early February, which is not that far away, Andy, for this to start.
Yeah.
Just based on what has to happen.
You got to give the time for the president to prepare a defense. You know, although the Senate doesn't have to give anybody due process, I think in impeachment trials, it's reasonable to allow him to prepare a defense to what is this article of impeachment.
The power of impeachment rests with the Senate. The scholarship is both ways, but if you're looking at contemporary scholars, it seems to be more tilting towards it makes no sense to impeach a former president.
That's true.
Because the significant part of it is removal.
The 3-day would be a show trial, and it'd be embarrassing for the Senate to do it. But worse than anything, it would contravene the constitutional text, which seems only to extend impeachment to the president, vice president, officers of the United States. It doesn't say former officers, former presidents.
In that group of 5 or 6 Republican senators who were willing to convict, they also don't know if they have the power to do this. And Jay, if you're correct,
Ben Sasse
if you're
said
correct
that, right.
Right. If you're correct that the courts don't take this up, then it does fall to senators to answer that question for themselves. Do we have the power to do this? And Jay, in a limited form of government, you would want your elected officials to restrain themselves and not take more authority than the Constitution grants them.
The remedy for impeachment is removal from office. To do other things and to try to mark a person with some sort of taint subsequent to that and permanent disqualification, the current scholarship seems to suggest is the granting of a bill of attainder, which is a taint on the person and his family and his parentage and his heritage, which was loathed and objected to and opposed to by the framers of the Constitution.
Impeachment, the remedy is just to remove someone from office, maybe disqualify them. President Trump's already been removed from office, and the American people can disqualify him from future office just by never voting for him again.
They're really trying to do something that, and I'm not a legal scholar, but seems to really violate the plain meaning of the Constitution. It certainly violates tradition and pragmatism. And not only that, as you said earlier, there is no way in the world that this Senate is going to vote to convict the president.
Not gonna happen.
So that means without a conviction, they can't disqualify him from running again.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, they, in spite of Biden's calls for unity, this completely divides the American people in a way that is completely unnecessary.
After the initial incident, horrible incident at the nation's capital, they thought for a moment we could get an impeachment and conviction. And then everybody started looking at the facts, which is what happens, and it looked less likely, but they still were insisting they wouldn't back down. And now they're going to create their own distraction from President Biden's agenda for his first 100 days, and at the same time, the president ends up with an acquittal.
There is no jurisdiction. You cannot put citizen Trump on trial. If you could do that, it would be a bill of attainder, number one, putting somebody on trial who was not a sitting president. And number two, the implications would be horrendous.
It's not just future presidents that will have this hanging over their head. It's every past president as well, including Democrat presidents. There's no reason that the reach back to former presidents couldn't extend to them.
What we're seeing now is the continued attack on a former president. And that is horrendous precedent to set on both sides of the aisle, because guess what, folks? The Democrats may seem tough on this, but if you gave Republicans this tool, especially this new Republican Party this tool, beware, Democrats, of what you were opening up.